How do you motivate someone to play a game? To put the right articles in the news or to rescue people from sea? How do you motivate someone to search a lost ship, documenting its crew's identities and means of death? Lucas Pope might say, hold their families hostage. If you don't obtain enough readership and loyalty through your publication, then your family will die. Give them a timer and limited resources. You only have 60 seconds to save those drowning, and only limited equipment, which you have to choose, to find them across a broad area of sea. Or maybe the circumstances surrounding the ship's disappearance remain mysterious. With the magical pocket watch that lets you see through time, you are the only one with the special ability to solve this mystery. The motivations might be ethical or political, over the top or subversive, maybe a wicked recipe of all. The only thing that matters is that the player engages, hopefully becoming immersed in whatever world that has been developed for them. The Bush administration, back in 2003, also needed to motivate a certain group of people. They wanted to go to war in Iraq and needed to make a case in front of the United Nations in order to do so. American pride was already high so soon after 9/11, and with unfounded claims of weapons of mass destruction, the Bush administration knew that their televised appeal would work on the American public. The only group of people left to motivate was the United Nations Security Council. The only issue is that, about 20 years earlier, the Rockefeller family had given the UN a Tapestry reproduction of Pablo Picasso's Guernica, which was subsequently framed at the entrance to the Security Council chamber. Picasso's Guernica, named after a Basque country town in northern Spain, which was bombed during the Spanish War, is gray, white, and black to express the horrors of war. There are motifs of people and animals suffering from the violence and the chaos. The Bush administration recognized the trouble, to put it lightly, that calling war into the world with outright lies of warheads in front of such a picture might bring. So they covered it up, put a tapestry over the thing and hoped people would forget that it was there. Miriam Hansen recognizes this coupling of a remediated appeal to a political conscience and a covering up of a reproduction to appeal to what Frederick Jameson might call the political unconscious as a crucial site of unease in media studies and political thought. The privatized reproduction of Picasso's work was not given to the UN until 30 years after its creation. Once it was, it took place in the chambers dictated to prevent such an image to ever take place again. And then the Bush administration quite literally covers it up, puts Colin Powell at the podium, and asks the world to support their war of lies. To Hansen, this moment proves that reproduced media and its framing hold certain weight. Not only is the speech inscribed with political meaning, but also the sensuous presentation of the world around it through a particular medium and its context. It requires the study of media aesthetics, a study concerned broadly with how consciousness, whether false or critical, is produced and reproduced in the first place. What is the effect of industrial capitalist technology on the organization of the human senses, and how does it affect the conditions of experience and agency, the ability to see connections and contradictions, remember the past and imagine a different future? How can alienation inflicted on the human sensorium and the defense against technologically induced shock, the splitting of experience into isolated sensations, affects, and soundbites, be undone, or rather transformed? Lucas Pope's 2018 Return of the Obra Dinn asks you to explore and document a merchant ship which disappeared in 1802 and suddenly resurfaced in 1807. Set within a very particular context, before the expansive end of slavery, and with a very specific materiality, an East India Company merchant ship that vanished on its journey from Asia to Europe, the game presents a deceptively nuanced political framework in which you are placed. Ashlyn, Sparrow, and Patrick Jagoda analyzed the game using a combination of media aesthetics and Jameson's theory of the political unconscious, a historical and collective, though non-representational, undergirding of capitalism and its responses to the system that can only be accessed indirectly through textual form. Coining the term the procedural unconscious, the writers ask the meaning of the procedural and ludic systems of the game, paying particular attention to the sensible movement and presentation of the ship and its crew, and the ways you are inscribed or otherwise implicated into a particular political framework, or maybe more importantly, the ways that you are not implicated into others. To save you from spoilers, we will not be talking about Return of the Obra Dinn any further. I highly recommend that you go play the game and of course go read Sparrow and Jagoda's essay. Instead, we might ask at what use such a framework might be when analyzing one of Lucas Pope's older, less polished games, the Republia Times from 2012. Welcome to the Ministry of Media. You're the new editor-in-chief for the Republia Times. The war's over, but people don't like us for it. It's your job to get them to like us. Motivate our public to read our newspaper and to be loyal. Also, we have your wife and child, and their health will depend on your success. You get to choose from a procedurally generated list of options which articles to put in today's publication of the news and what size each article will be. The placement of the article does not matter, just its inclusion and size. There are benign articles, like the weather, which people love to read about but don't get loyal over, entertainment articles like sports and celebrity gossip, and overtly political articles, such as news about war, dictatorship, industry, and regional affairs. The regime which you work under determines the goodness or badness of any articles based on an implied conservative totalitarian framework. Anything against the country is bad, and anything in support of the country is good. The dictator wearing women's clothing is bad, and the football team winning international competition is good. In effect, you control what is placed behind the curtain. You determine which stories the public will consume, and implicitly, how that will influence them. The only metrics that concern you are loyalty and readership. To begin the game, you want each of these to go up. The Ministry of Media asks that you reach a certain level of loyalty and readership, and if you don't reach this criteria in a certain amount of days, you and your family are killed. If you do obtain enough loyalty and readership, then inaccessible red text will begin to appear in the place of one of the generated articles. It begins with a bunch of random characters, but supposedly, as the rebellion is learning more about and gaining access to a secure channel of information, the messages become more and more clear. Please hear me. I am Kirstov, leader of the rebellion. We need your help. We can rescue your family. Sow disloyalty to strengthen the rebels. You have 4 days. Your family will soon be safe. Drop the public's loyalty to -30 and get 1,000 readers in 3 days. Your family's safety is assured. Convince 1,000 readers to be disloyal in 2 days. Oh, glorious day. We strike at sundown. Prepare yourself. The rebellion sequence is the heart of the game, and rightly so, as it flips the entire paradigm on its head. The rebellion is, in fact, not vanquished. The Ministry of Media is already having you lie in a way to the public. Should you actually trust them? The readership and loyalty metrics affect the public. Should you use them to ulterior ends, or approach them in a more ethical or meaningful way? The rebellion is saying that you can keep your family safe. Why shouldn't you help them? All the while, you go to sleep and wake up to reports of your work being unsatisfactory or disastrous, with your family losing privileges, suffering due to your failures, and enduring daily beatings. Consciously, your only focus is on the metrics and your family, but unconsciously, you are being placed in oppositional ideologies. Which ideology you adopt in any particular moment is influenced by the shift of Ludic goals. At the beginning, you are only asked to reach a certain amount of loyalty and readership criteria by the ministry before each round. By the end of the game, the rebellion is asking you to reach certain criteria while you are actually playing. The game utilizes the specific operations of the turn-based game to inscribe political motivation into the player, even if only within a brief context. It uses the procedural unconscious as the prime oppositional drive of the game. Maybe more conscious than unconscious at times, the game nonetheless implicates you into ideological frameworks that exceed the representations of totalitarianism or rebellion present in the game. All the while, you are stuck in an impossible situation, not knowing whether your family is safe or not, going on at the diegetic insertion of authority from previous truths and lies. Of course, there is no ending of the game in which your family survives. The best that you can hope for is that you might survive yourself in the rebellion with a truly heartfelt apology from Kirstev. By the end of the game, there seems to be no truth except some kind of essential lack on both sides. You have been sent through the ringer, so to speak, the conditions of your experience and agency left at a loss, a state of technologically induced shock, alienated by the oppositional pull of this brief 20-minute browser game. Alternative endings might indicate some kind of new or fringe media. It might be worthwhile to consider how this game might have worked if you controlled one of these publications outside of the government. Of course, why would you ever support the government then? I personally doubt that I would have ever helped the Republia Times except in this particular instance where I am omitted, with the conditions of my life at odds with both loyalty and disloyalty. Still though, the existence of some kind of ongoing fringe media implies the existence of articles that never reach your desk, content of the world that you never get to see. Lucas Pope covers up these stories, only allowing you to see certain things going on around the region. Sure, some are worse than others, but you can only imagine what kind of stories the totalitarian regime never allows to even make it through the door. By placing you in a particular context and holding crucial information away from you, Pope motivates you to support this totalitarian ideology and then to bring it down. What information you have and what is withheld determines how you interact with the game. The conditions of your and your family's existence are covered up, both literally and ludically, and just as you begin to catch on to exactly what you might be implicated in, as soon as you see what was behind the curtain, it's already too late. Yo, dude, you didn't include Steve? Who's Steve? Steve, the guy in the killer binocs and a sweet-ass boat, living the dream. Oh no, I had to cut that game. The point of Lucas Pope's over, man.